have that goal of graduating debt free, but hopefully through some undergrad research or something, I can like get some stipend or something that can help. But I still have to go through the scholarship applying process. And my GPA like disqualifies me for everything because I'm probably like, I think I was at a 2.4, which is like horrible. Like that's like, how am I even in university at that point? So I feel like that's just a giant anchor for me.
Henry, you want to talk to that one?
Your GPA matters for certain scholarships, but a lower GPA can actually help for many other scholarships, Steve. So don't count yourself out, right? Always never count yourself out. Let them do that for you.
And I would also challenge that, Steve. Like, I would actually I would start asking questions at the institution about a revamp, because had you not gone to Davis, had you gone to San Jose State, your GPA would have restarted when you came back, right?
Perhaps. I'm not sure how that would work. But
yes.
Maybe.
I think that would have restarted, and it would have restarted after you got a diagnosis for accommodations, which fundamentally, and let alone figuring out how to navigate the colleges, both of those things fundamentally change your relationship with your own academics, right?
Yeah.
So I'd actually say that the 2.4 label is actually an inaccurate representation of your capacity as a student. In fact, there's an inflection point measured sometime after 2018, maybe? I mean, you probably know the exact date, right?
It was 2 spring quarters ago. Or when did I start Davis? Oh, it was only 1 spring quarter ago, so that was pretty recent. It was the last spring quarter.
Yeah, and so I would make the argument to myself, and I would start poking around the institution to figure out what metric math they can do to actually capture that change. And if they can't capture that change, that's where I would be proactive about talking with the scholarship committees. And I would actually call them, or actually better, show up to somebody's office that's on the committee with an appointment and ask them questions about, hey, you know, my cumulative GPA disqualifies from the scholarship, and then have an actual argument why your post-spring 2000 and blah GPA is a much more accurate representation of your ability. Can I still apply for the scholarship, given that, you know, like, make a case for it, right? Because the reason that, like, if you think about the why that rule exists, like, why does the rule of GPA exist?
I don't know, to evaluate some students.
Is it the professor's money?
No, it's some random donor.
Maybe random donor, maybe money from the university, right? Yeah. So the people on the committee, do they have a personal stake in that money?
Yeah.
I would say they have a professional stake. Is it coming out of their bank account?
Oh, no.
Right? So there's some money that doesn't belong to them, and they're trying to evaluate your ability. Is the money infinite?
No.
So they only have maybe a limited amount, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so put yourself in that, empathize. Okay, you are working as a professional, you are determining who's going to get the scholarship, and you only have a limited amount. Who would you want to choose?
We'll use some random indicator or some indicators of driven students, and usually I think that correlates with like a high GPA.
I mean, that's a false assumption. That's a systemic assumption that I don't believe is true, right?
Yeah.
But they're using that metric, right?
Yeah.
Okay. In your case, is that metric at all relevant?
No.
Are there ways that you could communicate your drive to satisfy the demands of the community that clearly demonstrate your strengths as an applicant?
I can look into it. I'm not sure if there is, but I can try to petition.
Ask questions, collect information, just like you're doing.
Yeah.
Just go ask the questions, right? And if you get a no, that doesn't mean no. That means the person you're speaking with doesn't have a broad perspective.
Yeah.
Right?
I actually never thought about that. I mean, yeah. Then my GPA won't be as much of an anchor.
I've seen personally and heard stories of people that turned low GPAs into tens of thousands of dollars and applications into highly competitive schools, because the GPA is a story, right?
Yeah.
Do you know how many students in your situation would have just gone away?
A lot. Like
A lot.
I mean, it's something I feel more compelled to do. It's like I just not apply. I mean, it's kind of because there's already so much stacked. But
No, I'm not talking about going away from the scholarship process. I'm talking about going away from school.
no, yeah. I mean, I stopped going to school like a couple years back, but I came back. I mean, I've stuck through it, but it's just been.
That's a strength, Steve. Like that you like. I would encourage you to find ways to leverage that strength and leverage that drive, that grit, that determination. When we deep read Grit, hopefully you'll have some language to talk about that. That book is really good by Angela Duckworth. It's a good one. It's not on my next 5 in my queue for deep reading, but it's a good one. That grit is a testament to your strength and your capacity. And your job as an applicant is to show that, to convince the committee why does that show that you are just as deserving, if not more. I wouldn't, more as a hierarchical system, but like there's some real strength there. It's just, you're going to have to be creative about how you demonstrate that, and also creative about how you navigate that list of checklists. But like, put yourself in the shoes, empathize with those people. The why do they have that GPA requirement? Because I mean, my answer to that question would be, it's their way of vetting candidates so that they're not throwing money down the drain in their mind, right? If you have a limited amount of money, you want to bet on horses that are most likely to win. And to do that, you look at that previous track record. Previous success is no indication of future performance. But if a student doesn't know how to navigate the institution on itself, it's very unlikely that they're going to be able to finish their degree and then go on to bigger and better things, right? And so the GPA is a metric by which they're basically measuring assimilation into the system processes. But in your case, I wouldn't represent it as that. I would look at the intention behind the GPA and then find ways to highlight those strengths. The intention behind the GPA is to find successful candidates, people with a track record of academic performance, so that if we dedicate this limited resources to those people, it's unlikely that it's going to be quote unquote wasted, given to somebody who is not going to be able to actually matriculate and get through the institution. In my opinion, investment in you, Steve, is just as valid, just as powerful as investing in any straight A student with a 4.0. In fact, I would claim that a lot of those students, if they fell off the ball, would struggle to have the type of grit that you have, which means you've actually developed processes by which you know how to recenter yourself through challenge, which is in itself a strength in the application. The difficulty or the challenge for you is, how are you going to learn to write and interact, communicate, so that you can get yourself in those spaces to be evaluated, and so that you have a compelling case about how you can sell that challenge as a what do